So dear moderator and Dr. Renzo Galassi, and dear participants, it's my pleasure and honor to speak today in front of the 75th Congress of the Liga Medicorum Homeopathica Internationalis. I want to thank especially the President, Dr. Gustavo Cataldi, the new elected President, Dr. Altunai Agaoglu, and Honorary President, Dr. Renzo Galassi. My connection and the history with the Liga goes back as far as 1969, when we organized, together with my two students, Dr. Irini Bachas and Professor Spiros Gerzonis. We were only 3 persons in Greece, a very successful Liga Congress in Greece. It was in the midst of dictatorship by the colonials, who, by the way, helped a lot financially to be the cheapest Congress ever, as all participants had confirmed. By this time, we have 300 participants coming from all over the world. Now, in 1960, when I first came into contact with homeopathy, homeopathy had been practically died in USA and in most European countries. Was alive only in India, Mexico, and Argentina through the efforts of the late masters, Dr. Pablo Pasquero, Sanchez Ortega, Eugenio Candegabe, and Haris Chand from India. It was, in my understanding, a therapeutic alternative that had passed from a glorious homeopathic profession in USA in the end of the 19th century and had ended up practiced only by lay people in the 20th century. Today, this picture has changed drastically, and hundreds of thousands of practitioners and millions of patients all over the world are using homeopathy. Now, historians, of course, will find out to what was due this unorderly expansion. In my opinion, was not due to the successes of homeopathy alone, but mostly because of the failures of conventional medicine. So the homeopathic movement developed actually without rules, without direction, and without the Hahnemannian precision and integrity. The demand for homeopathy developed due to successes, I think, from most of those homeopaths who were practicing homeopathy properly, according to the classical rules that Hahnemann and Kent had laid down. Homeopathy can have amazing results, as everybody knows, if applied properly. And I may say, in this way, create the right practice, a positive atmosphere within the societies that allows all kinds of mongrel homeopaths, as we call them, to survive as well. I can say today that the homeopathic movement developed fast towards the end of the 20th century in a totally anarchistic way. There is no other science, I believe, for which so many useless and misleading books have been published in such numbers that the few books of the old masters containing useful information have been obscured and remained in this chaos that has been created. So the big question today is where the novice students can find the right books and the correct educational institutions to follow. The present situation, therefore, is crying out for correct leadership and authority. It's my personal opinion that the Liga Medicorum Homeopathica Internationalis can take up this duty and this responsibility. I do not think we have a better forum at this moment than the LMHI. I believe there is at the moment in the leaders of the Liga the vision for a better place of homeopathy in the world. But the first thing that we need at the moment is to establish basic standards, not on a theoretical basis alone, but as a clinical application of this science, which is full potential. I realize this is a heavy-duty obligation for the people who will form the first committee to ensure the standards. Given the present situation, this committee will need dedicated people that can act with integrity, knowledge, and wisdom. They have to work hard and, of course, will need to be compensated, not by the pharmaceutical companies, but from the Liga itself. From where the Liga will have the finances to pay these people with such integrity and knowledge, who will refuse bonuses from the pharmaceutical industry? This is a question. Because if they come to the payroll of the pharma, the battle will soon be lost. Except of the subscribers should have a percentage from all the schools that the committee will give accreditation to. In this way, we can create a reliable authority for all the countries that do not have rules. Of course, India, Mexico, Pakistan, and some other countries that they have accredited colleges, they have the experience and the knowledge of the standards that exist in these countries. Maybe we have to learn something from their experience, but also to avoid a lot of what is happening there. Homeopathy has still to go a long way before can be recognized as a complete, a separate system of medicine, but only if it is left to continue developing in such an anarchistic way as it is practiced by the majority of the homeopaths today, surely will go back to oblivion. And such a development will be a great pity for humanity. I have seen the miracles that can be performed with correct homeopathy in the areas of chronic and acute diseases, bringing back order to the physical body and sanity to the mind. the world at this moment is going with extraordinary speed into a crazy course of self-destruction. This is to a great extent due to a lost health, especially on mental and spiritual level. And nothing can save it apart from some healthy people who may emerge in position of authority. But which is the system of medicine that can give back sanity to the mind and make possible a reset to health? I'm sure that all the people who have gathered today in this Congress believe that this system is homeopathy. But this system is in a chaotic state today, with all these different fractions and ideas and whims that defy logic many times and realism. Today we experience, I think, the Babel of homeopathy, because everyone believes his own ideas is the only correct ones. We have to solve still a lot of problems before we can establish in the West a homeopathic university with hospital attached, where patients can turn in times of health crisis. I believe you understand at this moment how important would have been if we had a university with an attached hospital receiving people with COVID and treating people with COVID. The comparison with the conventional medicine will be tremendously in favor of homeopathy. Just to mention a few more of our problems. What is the real meaning and use of the 3 miles of Hahnemann? What they represent in our contemporary understanding of medicine? What are the rules that will establish what can be cured by homeopathy and what cannot? We cannot cure everything, and we have to define our limits. What is the position of homeopathy in the emergency medicine? What are the rules for the repetition of remedies? When to use high or low potencies? When to use the centesimal or the Q potencies? How to handle the multi-system pathology of today? How to interpret and evaluate correctly the reactions from the different patients with the same pathology? How to differentiate between curable and incurable cases? All these questions are waiting for clear answers that cannot be given by a single individual. We need to educate hundreds of thousands of students that will have the passion and dedication for this science in order to organize a massive movement that will shake the world and make it aware of the possibilities of homeopathy. It seems that we have done so far, what we have done so far is not enough to overcome the resistance of the big pharma and the established medicine. What we do at the moment, I will mention a few things. What should we do? We must project the cure cases through the medical journals in order to awaken the medical profession to the possibilities of homeopathy. With research publications. We must make aware that there is a serious alternative to thousands of the health problems of today's population. Kent introduced the hypothesis and gave us his experience. We must show how to treat the new pathologies we are called to treat. We must show that the reactions today of the old pathologies are totally different than the times of Hahnemann and Kent. Such pathologies have been driven deeper into the mental emotional planes and present a much more complex problem for prescribing homeopaths. How can we integrate in our practices their observations or reactions? Who is going to clarify these issues? Hahnemann spoke of the vital force and the reaction of the organism as a whole, which was correct. But today we deal with different pathologies in organisms that are undermined and compromised due to the different interventions with chemical drugs and vaccinations. Fever has, in modern understanding, has to disappear as soon as possible. And it is not left to do what is meant by nature. In my Levels of Health book, maybe some you don't know, I have written a whole book concerning the fever issue, which is called the Levels of Health book. I tried to explain and to give rules, but these need to be supported by further research. Who is going to do it? Today, we have chronically diseased patients that their immune system is compromised. And I want to speak a bit about the condition of the contemporary patients, which have been made after a lot of interventions with chemical drugs, biological compounds, and vaccination. All these, of course, were done in goodwill in order to help the patient, to ameliorate the suffering of the patient. But with what cost? Patients are coming today to be treated by us when they are in the last stages of chronic diseases. But this is not all. Their immune systems seems to be broken down in pieces under the polysystemic kind of diseases that we have, that have been emerged in the last 60 years. As a result, the patients are presenting a complex pathology that affect different systems. So they come to us to be treated with their immune system broken down and wretched, which is affecting different systems. You try to treat the psychopathology, and then the cardiac system starts reacting. And you treat this new development, and the kidneys start giving way. Which means the immune system or the vital force cannot give a complete response as a whole, like the one we had seen in the times of Hahnemann and Kent. In our theory, this is due to the miasms and the predisposition they have created. These predispositions are now passed on to the new generation as susceptibilities to different diseases. But who can explain what to do with such cases? If you see the different schools of homeopathy, you will get a vertigo or a headache with the nonsensical explanations and the application of a strange type of homeopathy they apply. I have recently received a letter for help in a case of ulcerative colitis. And I will please allow me to read from this letter. The patient says, I decided to explore alternative treatment options and visited a naturopath and a nutritionist. They prescribed me homeopathic remedies, probiotics, vitamins and supplements, B12, iron, betaine hydrochloride, magnesium, zinc, iodine, vitamin A, C, D3, fish oil, plant enzymes, orthominerals, and activated charcoal. I did all this for a few months, but my symptoms did not improve as such. By the summer of 2020, I was in a terrible state. So I'm afraid this is what's going on in our modern world of homeopathy. I mean, try to treat this kind of patient, and you will find out very difficult, how difficult will be to stop all these medications and find guiding symptoms to lead you to the correct remedy. What will be the strategy for such cases? But if such a severe case of alternative colitis has on top problems with other systems or organs, like the heart, the kidneys, or the liver, or all of them, what is the strategy? How do you handle such cases in order to give some relief to the poor patient? Do you start just giving the nosodes of the miasms in high potencies, repeating them, giving them all together, giving one after another? When are you going to select the remedy, which is one of the miasmatic remedies, etc.? For all these problems, we need the leadership and the authority of a forum like the Liga Medicorum Homeopathica Internationalis. Not only to organize the educational part, but also the Liga also should respond to the attacks on homeopathy by the ignorant physicians or the malignant journalists. We have a lot of such cases in the world going on. I'm sure that the young doctors who are searching for a better healing methodology will be easily convinced about the superiority of homeopathy. But if they are exposed to it by the right education, and I want to emphasize the words right education. At least this is our experience from hundreds of feedback reports we receive from the graduates of the International Academy of Classical Homeopathy. I will mention briefly now some other issues for which the Liga will have to deal. For instance, there is the need for clarification for those who use the terminology homeopathy. The Liga has to establish the basic rules that should be followed in the educational centers in order to justify the use of the word homeopathy. At this moment, the confusion with all these different kinds of mongrel homeopathic practitioners or the crazy ones who propose extreme ideas is creating a bad reputation for homeopathy, and they give the right to the enemies to talk about a pseudoscience. I'm sure that if they had the opportunity to see the work of serious practitioners, will change their opinion. But this is impossible at the moment. Therefore, we have to be careful by denouncing such ideas. Homeopathy is a real science that the world needs it urgently. And who knows, and we know its potentials. We have the responsibility to protect it. The Liga has to find a way to get disentangled from them and let the mongrels continue with their own names. Another issue that the Liga could take care is the requirements and the qualities, and this is very important, of a homeopathic teacher who really should have the right to teach. Today, anybody declares after attending few seminars that he is a teacher. There must be established a committee to control this craziness. Only those who can treat patients in front of students and be able to justify their prescriptions. And then they have to let the students see the follow-ups. Only such persons can be called teachers of homeopathy. This rule has to be enforced, otherwise the chaos will increase. In this way, the Liga could evolve eventually as a guiding institution par excellence and a supervisor of the homeopathic movement that could lead the way towards a higher evolution and stability of this science. Please allow me in closing this speech to talk on some personal matters. I can say that I have given every hour of my last 62 years of my life in order to spread the classical Hahnemannian homeopathy. And I do not regret it. I would do it again in case I had another life. Anyhow, I want to conclude this speech with a small story. While I was in India studying homeopathy, I came in contact with a real spiritual person in the year 1963, I think. After a short staying with him, and as I was leaving his place, he called me back and gave me some fruits. He says, while you are eating them, you could make a wish and will come true. Just remember, I was just a student of homeopathy at the moment. As I was going out of his place, I started eating the fruits, and I made a very ambitious wish. I asked that God will help me to spread the homeopathy all over the world. I do not know whether I have succeeded or not. Today, Academy has students in 97 countries. Is connected with 9 universities. Has published more than 50 papers in conventional peer-reviewed medical journals, and has more than 4,000 graduates from a complete online in-learning course which has been translated into 12 languages. What I know is that I tried my best against all odds, but at the same time, I was helped and blessed with a series of amazing events in my life, not only of cures, but also with honorary positions and awards, like the one that was granted to me today from the Liga Medicorum Homeopathica Internationalis, awarding me with the title of honorary member. I want to thank you very much for this honor. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Professor.
Thank you also, dear
Please,
Renzo.
dear Professor George, you know that now there is a special moment because for all this we have listened until now, we are not close to you, we cannot embrace you, but we are near with our hearts. You told me that because of your age, Professor Vithoulkas is 90 years old, you couldn't come in presence, but we want to honor you with something special. The LMHI, an historical association among homeopaths and the Association of Homeopathy, will be centenary in 3 years, as acknowledged during the years the most important doctors who did a lot for our beloved homeopathy. And this year we have the honor to give our acknowledgement as an honorary member to Professor George Vithoulkas. I invite the President Gustavo Cataldi and the President-elect Altunaya Olu on the stage. We have here a special plaque for you, and I know that Professor Tamara Denisova will come to take the plaque instead of you. Please come, Professor. And
Thank
so,
you, dear.
applause for our Professor George Vithoulkas, honorary member of the LMHI.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you. And I hope and believe that the new elected president, Altunai, will continue contributing to a better state in homeopathy. I want to express my deepest thanks to Professor Gustavo Cataldi and to my friend Renzo Galassi, who have contributed a lot in the modern way, in the modern times of homeopathy. I am absolutely honored and happy to have this fortunate day of my life. Thank you.